And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth, and it's great to have everybody here on this Thursday, December 21st. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show and makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that, let's get right into what we are going to discuss on the show today. So we're going to start off the show by talking about the AFC South, because a lot has changed recently. You now have a three-way tie between three teams. Tongue twister there for some reason. A tie between three teams. So we'll get into that. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the updated MVP odds. I'll go through that. Because obviously with the few weeks that we have left in the season, we're getting closer to the end, and at the NFL honors, that's when we're going to find out. So the week before the Super Bowl. So. But yeah, that's just something I just want to take a look at from here on out, because there was definitely a change after this past week, and there's definitely going to be more changes as we get towards the end of the season. So that'll be what we talk about in the second part of the show. In the third part of the show, we're going to talk about what's going on in Pittsburgh with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they're reeling right now. And there's some things that could be on the way, changes that could be made to the team in the offseason. Not that I've heard anything or seen anything, but it's really just speculation. But we'll get into that. And then in the final part of the show, we'll preview tonight's game between the Saints and the Rams. That'll get us kicked off for Week 16. So that's what we will do in the final part of the show, as we normally do. And that'll be it. So with that being said, let's get right into the first topic, which is talking about the AFC South. So right now, we have a three-way tie between the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Houston Texans, and the Indianapolis Colts. And it really looked like the Jags, well, for a while, the Jags were going to run away with this thing. It did get interesting at one point, but, then the Jags, they won that huge game in Houston, and it pretty much just looked like, the division was over. But since then, the Jags, they've now lost 3 in a row. Part of that is to do with injuries, also just the inconsistencies of the team in general. Because at certain points, you're like, wow, this team looks really good. And then there's other points where the team is, like, what's going on? And that pretty much sums them up. Sunday's game pretty much sums up the Jags, because, you have Trevor Lawrence, running with the football and then just dropping and fumbling it. The Ravens pick it up as they're driving. You had what happened at the end of the first half, where they didn't clock it in time, and they weren't able to get points before the end of the first half. But then you also have, that long pass to Jamal Agnew for a touchdown. And it's just, it's very strange. But yeah, ever since the Texans game, they've lost 3 in a row. They lost in overtime to Jake Browning and the Bengals. Now, part of that was because of the fact that Trevor Lawrence got hurt. If he doesn't get hurt, I think they win this game, but he ends up getting hurt. Then you end up losing to the Browns, and then you lose to the Ravens. So now you've lost 3 in a row, and their final 3 games are at Tampa, home against the Panthers, and then at Tennessee. Now, Trevor Lawrence was in concussion protocol, so it's possible that he misses this week. And if he does miss, I don't see how C.J. Beathard is going to come in and beat the Bucs on the road. I don't see it happening. Although the Bucs, they're an inconsistent team as well. I mean, they're coming off of a great game against the Packers. Baker Mayfield, obviously the perfect passer rating in Lambeau Field, the first opposing quarterback to do so. So all signs point to the Bucs winning if Trevor Lawrence is out. But they do have the Panthers on their schedule. They're at Tennessee, which again, divisional game, but they should win that. if Trevor Lawrence is back. But it's going to be tough. Now, the Texans, they're dealing with their quarterback being injured too. Because C.J. Stroud, it looks like he's not playing this week. It looks like it's going to be Case Keenum again. And they got the Browns. They got the Titans at home. Both those games are at home. And then you have the last game in Indianapolis. So, they need to get Stroud back. Now, Case Keenum, obviously, that was a huge win, that they pulled off in Tennessee. But, they need to get C.J. Stroud back because that's ultimately who is going to, get them to the playoffs. And, the other thing, too, is, the wild card, a team can, make it in the wild card. The Colts right now have a wild card, but things can change after this week. But and the Texans are tied with them, in that. Right now, the Jags, they have the tiebreakers over these two teams. So, but yeah, everybody's tied at 8-6. But yeah, the other avenue is the wild card. But you'd want to win the division so you can host a playoff game. But yeah, with C.J. Stroud being out, it's going to be tough. And you got the Browns coming in who are playing good football. Joe Flacco, obviously a tale of, two halves with him. But still, this Browns team is pretty good. And, if they're missing C.J. Stroud for this game, it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game. And then you look at the Colts. They got the Falcons this week, which I look at as a trap game. But who knows? Then they're at home. Then their next two games are at home against the Raiders and the Texans. So I still like the Jags to win the division, but I don't feel great about it because I just feel like they were the favorites, but I guess everything's kind of leveled out now because now you got backup QBs, for all these three teams that are, possibly playing this week. You're going to see Keenum again. Minshew has been playing for most of the year, and you got C.J. Beathard. But I give the edge to Case Keenum and Gardner Minshew over Beathard. Case Keenum has won a lot of games. He's won playoff games. And Minshew, he's had to come in, and he's won his fair share of games. C.J. Beathard, he's never really been that good whenever he's had to start a game. And that's going back to when he played with the 49ers. It's not until they got Garoppolo and now with Purdy that, they're a good team. But they also, those teams also didn't have as loaded of a roster as they do now too. But still, I don't think C.J. Beathard was really going to do anything. He's a backup quarterback. That's what he is. But he's one of the he's not in that top tier of backup quarterbacks. Because Minshew, I think, is definitely up there. Keenum over the course of his career, he was a starter too for a little bit. The Broncos brought him in to be their starting quarterback. And obviously didn't really pan out. But when he was the starter for the Vikings, when Sam Bradford got hurt, he was good. And they made the playoffs, the Minneapolis Miracle, and they pulled off a miracle the other day because they were down by 2 scores and they were able to come back. And they were missing a lot of starters. So Keenum's a decent backup to have. But Beathard, for Trevor Lawrence, no, not so much. Listen, we'll see what happens, but it really has it's gotten tight there. It's a three-way tie right now, and we got 3 games left, and injuries could decide who wins this division, because again, if Trevor Lawrence misses any time, especially with these last 3 games, it's possible Jags could fall out, and could miss the playoffs too. That's also possible because of how jam-packed the wild card is. They do have the tiebreaker over the Bills because they did beat them. But they don't have the tiebreaker over the Bengals. Bengals beat them with Jake Browning. Same thing with the Browns. I mean, they beat the Steelers. So, but yeah, I mean, this is a scenario where all three teams can make the playoffs, but it's gonna be really tough. It's gonna be really tough for that because I like the Bills to take one of those wild card spots with how they're playing, um, but we'll see. You know, that last game of the regular season between the Colts and the Texans could be huge because that could decide which one of those teams is going to make it. So, but Stroud's got to come back, and again, it doesn't look like he's going to play again this week, which again, unfortunate because he was having such a great year. But he should be back at some point. But at least for another week, he's going to be out. So hopefully he gets back soon. And the other thing too is the Texans, they got a lot of injuries, besides Stroud. Yeah, so he was held out of practice on Wednesday. But yeah, they're prepping for Case Keenum to start. But yeah, you also got Nico Collins being out too. Tank Dell obviously. So they're missing people. So, hopefully you at least get Nico Collins back. Dalton Schultz missed a couple of games, but he's come back as well. Made a big catch, in that game where it looked like it was going to get picked, but, Schultz was able to catch it. So, we'll see. And Devin Singletary's been making plays for him too. So, at least, for the Texans, they're at home, for this week. But it's going to be a tough game against the Browns, so. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to the AFC South. I still lean towards the Jags, because I just find it hard to, believe that they're not going to win it. But again, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play this week, that's really going to hurt them. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much it with this topic. Let me know what you guys think on who do you think is going to win the AFC South. It's going to be close regardless. It's with everything, the wild cards and other divisions as well. The NFC South too. Look at that division. At least with these teams, you got winning records. The best record in that division is 7-7 right now. So, and odds are that division's probably going to finish with another losing record this year. So, the winner of that division. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is going to win the AFC South here? So, when we come back from our first break of the show, we're going to talk about the MVP odds. We'll give you an update on that. Who is currently the favorite. I'll give you my thoughts on that. And that is what we will do when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.